Good morning everybody, my name's Nicole and this is Darvanalee Design Studio. This is a multi-craft channel, but today's video is about cross stitch. So sorry about the wobbly camera. I've actually got my camera in hand because I'm going to show you what I'm going to do and how I'm going to attach my my Autumn Queen to the mammoth frame that I got from a friend. So Wendy Patterson and her sister Meg put me onto their parents who had a frame there for me to that was going to be big enough for my Autumn Queen. So thank you so much to Wendy Patterson, and if you want to check out some of her videos, you can find her at Wendy Patterson Art here on YouTube, and she does some beautiful artistic paintings and watercolors and all sorts of stuff. So head over to her channel and I'll link it up down below and you can check her out and show her some love. She hasn't been on YouTube for very long, so she could do with some subscribers going over and checking out what she gets up to. So that's my plug for Wendy and thank you for putting me onto this. So basically what happened was I have ordered the largest thing I could order possibly from heaven and earth, and it's called Autumn Queen, and I'll insert a picture in here so you can see what it looks like. She is my focus for Mania. Now I am a week late for Mania due to doing some other stuff in the background, but I've come into it and I'm committed to do 3 to 4 hours a day. But for the first week of me doing it, which I started a couple of days ago, I'm adding a few extra hours to catch up for that week that I missed. But the problem is I've only done one page. This is going to be a huge project. And as I said, I had to find the biggest frame I could possibly find. One that I could just leave set up and not have to worry about it. So today I'm going to show you how I'm going to set that up, because I've cut my fabric prior to getting this frame. So I've only given myself, I think, a 3-inch border all the way around, and it's not enough to go around the bars. Sorry about all the noise in the background. It is a Saturday morning and Mia is here playing out the front. So I'm going to show you what the frame looks like. So this is the frame, and excuse the mess in my studio, but here we go. I'll just switch to see what it looks like. So this is the frame, and as you can see, it is going to be big enough. Only just, I might add, and this is a huge frame. Okay, so this would be about 1.10 meters in width. My canvas is 31 inches in width, so that's almost a yard, so not quite, so put maybe on the meter mark. And you can see there that I've got plenty of room to pin it all in, and it's a floor stand, so it will stay set up. It's a little bit weathered, but I've sanded it all back and it's all beautifully smooth and it's come up clean. And I'm really happy with it, and I got it for such a great price. They really did do me a favor on that, and they only $50 for it. So I'm so blessed and lucky that Meg and Wendy both thought of me when their dad was deciding to get rid of it. He made it for someone else, so they didn't pick it up, but that was their loss and my gain. So you can see here I've got the canvas on it, so I'll just show you what that looks like. Sorry about all the movement. And you can see here that I've only got 3 inches from where the page is to the edge of the material, and you can see here that these bars are quite large, so it won't fit around, and I can get it on there but I won't be able to stitch along the top, so I have to solve that problem. I just love how Mia just dumps her shoes and blankets everywhere. So what I'm going to do, and I'll just get rid of this again. You can see here I've got a piece of calico. So what I'm going to do is, I'm lucky enough I've got a sewing machine, so I can just attach some to it. So on the bars there's no split rail and there's no twill tape on there for me to connect it to. So, and I don't have a staple. I do have some twill tape, but I don't have a staple enough, heavy duty enough to go through this bar. So, and I don't want to go and spend $60 on a heavy duty stapler. So I'm not going to worry about that. So the solution to my problem is the calico. So let's move over here. And as I said, excuse the mess, it is the weekend and it does get blown out in here. All right, so I've got some calico. This is just scrap that I've got out of my scrap bin. It's wide enough, so it is longer than what I need. So I've got to cut a piece off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to the sewing machine, and I'm basically just going to attach that fabric to the cross stitch fabric. and I'm going to use a triple stitch. Okay, so that is a stitch on my sewing machine that actually has 3 stitches, and I'll show you that in a second. And basically I'm going to stitch that on, and I know that that is going to be secure, and I can put tension on it and it's not going to worry me. I'm not going to get worried that it's going to pull apart, because I've got a long time on that top row, and I'm going to attach some to the bottom. So I need to cut this piece of calico to 31 inches, and then I'll sew it onto the sewing machine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All I'm going to use for that is a rotary cutter, my cutting board, and a quilting ruler, because I do quilting, for those that don't know. So I've got all those tools here. If you don't have those tools, just grab a tape measure, grab yourself some calico if this is what you need to do, and just measure the width of your cross stitch fabric, and then cut yourself probably only about a 10-inch strip I'm going to worry about. That'll give me the 4 or 5 inches that I need to go over to secure on the bar, which I'll show you how to do that shortly, and enough to attach to the fabric and give me a little playroom there. Okay, so basically all I've done is, as I said, I've grabbed that scrap piece of calico, and it has a nice straight edge on it where I've cut it off. So I can line that up, and I'll just tilt the camera so you can see. So there's the edge of my cutting board, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to line up that straight edge. I've folded it in 4, okay, because that's going to be the easiest way to cut it. So I've lined it up on that straight edge up there, and then I'm going to just check one of these lines here, and I'm going to line up my fold on there. And then I'm just going to grab my rotary cutter, or a pair of scissors. If you don't have a rotary cutter, we'll do the same thing. And if you're using scissors, then I would suggest that you mark out your line, so draw yourself a line. So I'll just tilt my camera, sorry about this. And I'm just going to put, I can see that that's lining up nice and straight. I've got a straight edge over here, and I've got the fold all on that dotted line. And this is my mark here. The line here that you can see on the board is actually on the 31 inches. So I'm just going to cut that off. And then I'll just save this piece for another time. And as you can see, I've got these pieces here, but I'm not going to need, they're folded over, I'm not going to need all that amount. So all I'm going to do is just unfold that. Bring that fold down. And realistically, I'm probably only going to need the width of the ruler. So I'm just going to place this on the fold. And I'm not sure that you can see that quite very clearly, so I'll just move that. So you can see here I'm on the edge of my board. I've brought that down, that fold down onto the bottom line of my board. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten that down, put my ruler down, which is a 6.5 width. And with the 3 inches that I had enough there. So 6.5 is going to be plenty for me to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then also wrap it around and then stitch it or pin it into place. So I'm sure that there are other ways of doing it, but this is my solution to the problem. So I'm just going to cut that along there. Make sure that everything's out of the way first. I didn't cut anything, so that's all good. Thought I might have hit the mouse then, but it's the divot in my mat. And then I'm just going to go all the way along there. And then I'll put that away for another time. And calico is really cheap, so that's why I like using it. And then all I'm going to do is grab my scissors, and I'm just going to cut on that fold. And then I'll have 2 pieces, one for the top and one for the bottom. And I know that they're both straight. They're both the same size. And I don't need to worry about hemming it or anything like that. So now I have 2 strips. So now I'll be able to sew that to the top and the bottom of my fabric. Okay, so this is my machine that I'm going to be using. It's the Singer Futura. And basically the stitch that I'm going to use is the number 2 stitch, and you can see there it's like a triple stitch. So basically what that means is it's going to sew it 3 times before it moves on to the next stitch, and that's going to give me that added security of it being secure, and I can put a little bit of tension on it because that's what I need to do, and I know that it's not going to come apart. And I just set my settings to roughly the center point, and you can see I've got 2 green lights there, so they are working well. And then all I got to do is press the button, and that changes it, and then I'm ready to start stitching. Okay, so all I have to do is grab my fabric, put my presser foot on, and so I'm ready to stitch. My thread's all ready to go. And now all I need to do is grab my fabric. So I've got my cross stitch fabric here, and I've got the right side up, and then I'm just going to place my calico right along the edge of that. Now I've already overlocked or done a zigzag stitch. I haven't overlocked this one. I've done a zigzag stitch on my cross stitch fabric. So if you haven't done that, that's fine. You don't need to do that, but I would recommend that you do it. Just makes it a little bit easier. So I've lined that up, and as I said, I've got the triple stitch one done, as you've seen me set that. And then all I'm going to do is line up my raw edges of the calico and also of the cross stitch fabric. And I'm not going to worry about doing a back stitch on this one because it is a triple stitch. It's pretty much back stitching on itself anyway. And then I'm just going to use the edge of the presser foot as my guideline. So I don't need a massive seam. I just need to have that seam in there, and I'll put my needle in the down position, and then that way I know as I'm sewing along, if I need to stop, that fabric isn't going to move once I stop. All right, so I'm just going to continue doing that until I get to the end, pick up the speed a little bit, and it's as simple as that. And then all you've got to do is repeat it, the same thing for the other end. Okay, and once you've got to the end, you just take your threads out, and you can see there that that is stitched on really well. So I know that I can put pressure on that and it's not going to come apart. You can see there. And I've also caught just about every hole on that cross stitch fabric as well, so that's going to give it that extra security. Now you can go along and zigzag the top of it if you want to, but it's not necessary. This isn't going to be handled very much once it's in the frame. It's just going to scroll. So basically that means that it's not going to fray. That because it's not being handled. The more you handle fabric, the more it'll fray. So I'm good to go now for the bottom end, and I'm just going to turn it around and I'm going to add it on like I did the top. Alright, so that is both ends done. Now it comes time to actually putting it onto the frame. Okay, so I'm here at the frame. As you can see, it's quite, as I said, it's quite a large one. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to, and I can't fit the whole frame into the picture. I can move it slightly though. So you can see it's quite large. And yeah, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from this point here to the next bar, and I'm going to measure the width of that bar, and then I'm going to find the center point. So from one end to the other on the inside of the stabilizing bars. Okay, so I'm at 39 inches. So half of that is 19 and a half. Okay, so that 19 and a half mark. Okay, I'm just going to grab my pencil and I'm going to hold that up there again. And do you want to hold that for me, Mia? Then you want to be in the camera. She's nice and grubby today. She's outside playing. Hi. And basically I'm just going to find that halfway point. Thank you. And again, I know that my width of my fabric is 31 inches. So I'm going to find the middle of that. All right. And I can do that really easily just by folding that in half.
Folding that in half?
Shh, please, I'm talking.
Okay.
Okay, off you go. Go play. I find the center point of that and I just add a pin into it. So it's my favorite way of finding the centerpiece. Okay, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to line up that pin that I just put in there, or you may have put a mark. Okay, so my center point is just here and I'm just going to line that up. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my fabric over. And put the excess up in my lap. And I'm just going to bring the end of that fabric over, and I'm not sure that you can see that. I'll just bring along. I'm just going to bring the end of the fabric over, making sure that my center mark is lining up. And I'm just going to pop a mark on the bar there. And then I'm going to do that at the other end. So I know that the edge of my fabric have to line up approximately to those marks. All right, so I'm just going to bring it back along again. Now, all I'm going to do, now that I know where the center mark is, I've just made a mark so I don't stab myself. Okay, I am going to just place my fabric over. Now, I just place it over and then I will roll it back this way so the stitch part will get rolled up into the frame, and it won't get damaged or anything like that on the outside. So once it starts rolling, you'll actually see the back part of my my stitching on the outside. Okay, but to start it, I'm just going to bring this over and I'm going to attach, and I'll just bring it across this way, and I'm just going to line it up, and then I'm going to line up my raw edges of the sides, and you can hear the girls in there about to start fighting. And I'm just going to place a pin in there. Okay, and it'll still move at this point because it's just tentatively placed in there. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same at this end as well. And that's just going to hold it in place for me, and like you can see there, it's still quite moving along quite a bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust each end until I've just got some fabric just under the bar. So I've got, you can see there, I've just got a small amount, about 1/2 inch past the bar, and that is where I'm going to leave the fabric. And then I'm just going to do that all the way along and pop some pins in, and then I'm going to sew it into place. Now, as I said, this is my solution. I don't have any painter's tape here. I don't have any, I have twill tape, but I don't have a stapler that is strong enough. So this is another way that you can do it. It's a little bit time consuming, but this job is a big job of a cross stitch. So I'm going to be at it for a while. So I don't want it coming apart. And I just want to make sure that I have secured it nicely. And then just adjust this one at this end. And just looking at that, I can see that that is quite level. So now all I'm going to do, and I'm just going to use my embroidery floss for this. I'm just going to tie a knot in the end of it. And then as close as I can get to the bar, I'm right-handed, so I keep going to the right-hand side. As close as I can get to the bar to secure that in place. So you can see there, it's struggling to move now. So that's where I want to stitch it. So I'm going to go in, and I'm using a chenille needle, which is quite a large needle. It's a sharp needle, so it'll go through your fabric really well. But it's got a nice big thick eye on it too, so you can have 3 strands if you need. I'm only using 2 strands. And I'm just going to run that directly under the bar and secure that in place. And I'm going to do that twice. And I can feel the bar with my needle running along the bottom of it. Okay, so I'm going to do that twice. And you can see there that that's just closed that gap. And now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to, all the way along, I'm just going to go in and out, making sure that I'm hard up against that bar. And I do them at about 1/4 inch, 6 millimeters is my gauge. So you can see, I'll roll that around. So you can see there, it's just a small stitch. And I'm doing this on a bit of an angle, so it's gone on an angle. So you want it to be as straight as possible. So again, just making sure that you're giving it a little bit of tension. And that's why I'm using the embroidery floss, because it's got a little bit more strength to it. And you can see there that that is now secure on the bar. So basically all you're going to do is you're going to repeat that all the way down. And then you're going to do exactly the same thing at the bottom end of your cross stitch. And this is just a running stitch that I'm using, so it just makes it nice and easy. And you can see there it's pulling it in nice and tight. And this bar is a little bit stiff, so I'm assuming over time I might have to disassemble it and give it another sand so it moves a little bit freer in the stabilizer bars here at each end. It's a little bit stiff because it's a little bit weathered, but you can see there that that is now nice and secure. It's not moving anywhere, it's secure on that bar. You can remove the pins as you're going and it's not going to slide. It's going to give me a nice smooth edge and tension on it and everything like that. So this is the same sort of method that we use on our long arm machine. Okay, so when I'm doing the long arm machine, I actually pin it top to tip. Okay, so if I was doing this on the long arm machine, I would have these pins in here because obviously we don't sew it in, and then I would put in another one and the head would hit the tip, and then and it was so forth and so on, and it does exactly the same thing. And then we call them leader cloths that we pin them into. This is the same principle, except I'm stitching it in place. This is a massive project. It's got 237 colors in it. It is huge, so it's going to be in this frame for a long time. I'm not even kidding myself. I think it's got in total it has 412 something thousand stitches. I've got a long way to go. All right, so I'm going to continue doing that and then I will show you how I roll it in. Okay, so you can see here that I've stitched that on, and it is, you can see, like, I've got to put some pressure on that. It's not going anywhere. All right, so now I do have noticed that it has just moved away from that mark a little bit, so I can just give it a little bit of a shuffle along. So now I know that that is in and nice and secure, and I've just got to repeat that to the bottom one, and then I will be able to roll that up. So you can see there that I can just roll that up. And I can smooth it as I need to. You can hear that they're pretty tight. So I might need to put a little bit of deck oil on it or something like that. So I can see there that that is going to be perfect. It's nice and secure. I don't have to worry about it coming undone or anything like that. And you might be wondering why I'm going to do it like this. This project is going to be in this frame for quite a number of years, okay? So I don't want to have any staples in it going rusty. I don't want to run the risk of the painter's tape coming away or perishing inside the cloth or anything like that, and maybe, you know, you just don't know what's going to happen. I live in quite a dry climate, so I don't have to worry about humidity or anything like that, but I still didn't want to worry about rust from staples or anything like that. So I thought that take what I know about quilting and apply it to this, and then that way I will have no worries whatsoever. I can have it in here for many years, and basically I won't have to stress that it's going to damage my cross stitch in any way. So I'm going to keep going and finish the bottom. Okay, so you can see now that that is all secured into the frame. I'm probably going to have to get some stabilizer. I don't know, maybe I might get some, do what I do with my quilts and just get a little bit of Velcro and wrap that around and then just pin it into there. Probably put 3 down to secure it in place. But all in all, that's gone in really well. I'm really happy with it. As I said, I just need to put a little bit more side tension on that, but it's not really going to matter that much in the scheme of things. It's more just to have it in the frame, and yeah, so I'm really happy how that has gone in. And now I can get stitching. This one doesn't have any twill tape, and I didn't want to go and spend any more money than I had to, so I just used what my knowledge of my quilting and how I put things up onto the quilting frame. So I really do hope that you enjoyed this little how-to video today. Not really a tutorial, but in a way it is, and how I solved a problem for my Autumn Queen. So if you like this video today, give it a thumbs up down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and then that way you won't miss out on any future posts. And for those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reid for Darvanalee Design Studio, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye!